Water, an absolute necessity in everyday life. Yet it is something many of us take for granted. In Uganda, like many developing communities around the world, it can be the barrier to equality, education, and economic prosperity. It can be the difference between life and death. Overcoming extreme challenges in getting access to safe, clean water is essential in creating the building blocks that lead to sustainable progress. Without it, there is simply no future. Every day, mostly women and children must travel over harsh terrain, making long journeys to collect what is often unhealthy and dirty water, facing huge risks as they bring home only what they can carry. In this programme, you will discover how a unique Irish and African research partnership decided to tackle the issue, bringing experts into the heart of a remote rural community to face the challenges together. What they found was as astonishing as it was profound. According to the United Nations, by the year 2050, there will be 9 billion people living on planet Earth. This boom in population growth is expected to put immense pressure on our natural resources, in particular, water. As demand for this finite resource grows, towns and cities around the world are forced to rely on sources that are increasingly further away and expensive to access.
If you think about water, think about we need it for our basic life, we need it for cleaning, we need it for sanitation. Even at a basic level, a mother needs clean and safe water to be able to feed her child effectively.
The governance and management of water will be one of the defining factors in what the future holds for generations to come.
Communities know the importance of using safe water, but there's lack of the necessary incentives that would make this work to benefit the communities.
Water management is the biggest problem because we have different water resources in the developing world.
Globally, sustainable access to safe, clean water means the difference between life and death.
Much as there are many methods for making water safe, for example, boiling, some can use chlorine. But where we are like now, they cannot access such methods, such technologies, because they are poor.
In the developing world, men and women play very differing roles in the management of water resources, which causes conflict within the local community.
Because this is something that affects the women's self-actualization, they do not have that space to think beyond the water, having water in their home, how it's going to be collected.
Right now, developing countries are very exposed to these critical issues, and solving them before it is too late will take a multidisciplinary approach. The parish of Makondo in southwest Uganda is an example of a rural area that is experiencing some of the harshest conditions for accessing safe, clean water. Most of its population engages in subsistence farming of both crops and livestock. It is a vulnerable community where people constantly survive on the tightest of margins. In this community, individuals use on average 11 to 15 litres of water per day. This is in sharp contrast to the recommended World Health Organization guidelines of 20 to 25 litres minimum per person per day, and Ireland's estimated individual daily consumption of 150 litres. The people here are aware of changes in their climate and are already feeling its effects as they experience increasingly long, hot, dry seasons with little or no rainfall.
Richard,
Yes,
this is the
dust, yes.
Yeah.
As these climate changes take hold, competition for the ever-diminishing water supply will increase. With no rivers flowing through the area, water comes to the surface from deep underground in the form of springs. Contamination from human and animal waste poses a serious threat to this supply. With poor infrastructure and a lack of clear leadership creating an ever-increasing list of issues, the future of this community hangs in the balance, and the pressure is on to find solutions. In 2008, the Water is Life project began. This multidisciplinary project brought together and supported 8 African PhD students from physical, life and social science disciplines. Working with Ugandan and Irish academics and NGOs, their aim was to research solutions to the ever-increasing challenge of providing safe access to clean water.
We selected 8 PhD students, all African, and we embedded them in the community. They lived in the community, they worked in the community, all of their research was carried out in the field.
The Water is Life project ran for 6 years and included theoretical and practical research.
But this project, it required of me to live in the community, to develop a problem from what the community is telling me, to get the reasons the community is bringing out and trying to match these reasons to a scientific problem. You know, that really appealed to me greatly.
I think one of the unusual things about this project is that there are many projects in Africa that look at some of the technology surrounding pumps or the sustainability of the water resource or gender issues to do with collection of water. But this is unusual in the sense that we have the social sciences and community health and the engineering and science all collecting data in the same area and providing a much more holistic approach.
From the beginning, the Water is Life team put great importance on conducting their research in a holistic way. Through a series of local meetings in Makondo, the community's needs were assessed and a programme for the project was created.
Water is Life is very much about how you connect research, which often is up here and removed from people, to the people at the grassroots, where you're bringing researchers onto the ground, interacting with the local community, trying to find out what their needs are, what their ideas are, their thoughts, trying to make live the research, the evidence, and collectively trying to solve a problem in a very focused way.
Makondo was selected as the Water is Life research site because of an existing link between the lead university on the project, Dundalk Institute of Technology, and the Medical Missionaries of Mary, who had been working on the ground there for over 20 years and had a well-established relationship with the community.
Makondo, as you saw, is a very remote area, and we were very small. Kitovu was our big hospital, but Makondo, where's that? And suddenly we had these people coming with all their expertise, and they were so nice and so normal. You know, we were a bit in awe in the beginning.
It is important to remember that having sustainable access to safe, clean water is a matter of life and death for this community. Researching the right topics was fundamental to the impact of this project. The PhD students focused on a broad range of significant issues, including gender, health, technology, governance, and groundwater sourcing and distribution.
Basically, when we got here, one of the main things people pointed out as challenges was access to safe drinking water. When we tested the quality of their water, we found out that it was contaminated, it wasn't safe and required treatment. And they said they don't have resources for treating water. So on that ground, we introduced SODIS for them. SODIS stands for Solar Water Disinfection. Basically, SODIS is a water treatment method that utilizes the natural sun to treat water. It's that sun which we do receive as a free resource that kills bacteria, kills viruses, kills protozoa.
Part of the project introduced SODIS into schools so that children could learn about it and teach it to their parents.
was looking at the role of solar disinfection of drinking water, that is SODIS, its effect on waterborne diseases amongst school-going pupils, as well as the effect on school attendance of the pupils.
Who can tell me the uses of water?
For washing.
For washing clothes, Any other use of water?
And we wanted to use the school children as ambassadors for this technology back into the community. So we trained the kids at school, but we hope that they would take this technology back to their parents and the general community.
Because of limited resources when I was starting SODIS, I recruited about 50 households. But when you move around, you find hundreds and hundreds doing SODIS. And then when you ask them where are they learning the technology, they tell you we learn it from our colleagues. When we see the bottles being exposed on the roof, we ask them and then they teach us. Basically, to me, there is a very big difference between before and now.
The community of Makondo has severe problems accessing safe, clean water because many of their sources don't function properly. Repairs to these sources can take a very long time. This serious issue exists because of weak community leadership and a sense of distrust between the locals and the water service providers.
Water is such a big problem in this community. People wake up very early in the morning, as early as 4:30 or 5 a.m. in the morning. They wake up the children, they organize, the women organize these children to go and collect the water. People walk more than 1 kilometer, 1.5 kilometers in this particular village to collect water. It's her daughter who collected this water from the open well this morning. Wagenze sawa maker, she's saying she went very early. Wagenze sawa maker. She went to the well at 6 o'clock in the morning. She collected water twice this morning. She didn't find many children the time she collected because most of the children had gone earlier than her, the ones who have gone to school. But because she wasn't gone to school, that is why she went at 6. Otherwise, she would have gone earlier than that if she was to go to school. Like you see, the boy, he's washing his feet, but he can't use kind of like a lot of water. You might find that he's going to leave it in that basin, and then it can be used for further like watering that calf you see there. So that is very typical. That is like what we consider as the water rationing. They wouldn't just bathe and just let all the water just flow like that. Once they use all that, she will have to go back to the water source. Yeah.
Water collection can be a dangerous activity. Women and children find themselves especially vulnerable.
We found that these younger kids are the most to fetch water at home. So sometimes they get a headache, they can fall into those open wells and many other problems.
You see some of the roads they're using here are also being used by traffic, motorcycles, vehicles. They have to move across these roads to reach their water sources. So there's a risk of being knocked. There's a risk of injury as well. Some of these injuries were actually coming from the collection of water itself. Like there were cases of people falling jerrycans, injuring their backs. 10-year-old child carrying a 10-liter jerrycan. I think that is too heavy. on their part. And then there was a risk of rape. There were reports of rape, children being raped at these water sources, although we couldn't confirm that. But these are real risks. I want to see men being involved in collecting water, for example, helping the women and the children.
What I tried to do when I was looking at all these issues was really to bring out the voice of the women so that I can properly articulate and represent their issues to all the different stakeholders for further action. So we had community meetings with the women. They were able to present all their different issues. One of the major challenges they're facing is that relationship and dialogue around water with their either spouses or partners is missing. All the workload is left to the women.
There are a number of different water source types which the community have access to, from unimproved and unsafe open water springs to the modern hand pump systems. All these sources require a large degree of local community management to ensure they remain consistently functioning. And sometimes this management system breaks down.
Because of many dynamics, social and other dynamics, they almost hand over to the village leader. And yet the village leader needs to work on so many other things, so he is too busy elsewhere. So it's the committee that would be doing that, but the committee is not functioning effectively. That's why you'll find such problems. The committee should be collecting money from users of the water source, so that if there is failure, they invite a hand pump mechanic who comes and repairs the water source, and then he's paid. If they need a spare part, they can buy it from that money.
So for example, chatting with a hand pump mechanic, he can tell you how they don't have money to repair the hand pumps. Then they tell you issues of conflict with issues of disagreements between them and the villagers when they tell them we need money to buy spare parts, and the villagers would say you're just trying to rip us, you're trying to rip us off, you know. So that would be you just want the money for your own personal use. And you don't blame them because there is no accountability, you know.
You need to build a certain level of trust between those who are responsible for the management of water sources, the committees. You also need to build some level of trust between the community generally and the service providers, especially government. And this is something that does not take a short time. It takes a long time to build this trust. The best outcome of that is that the community takes responsibility and owns these facilities and takes them as their own. They do not associate them with government or any other actor, but they are their facilities because they want safe water and the facilities are here. So the biggest benefit is that they will own them and they will take care of these water sources.
Access to water is extremely important to the cattle farmers of Makondo. The land here is traditionally commonage, available to use by whoever requires it. In recent times, the fencing off of land by other land users has meant farmers are cut off from critical sources of water.
In terms of water access, it creates difficulty because someone will just fence off some land, and then it will be blocking the route to a water source for cattle. And then that's a big challenge. So animals may graze on the whole day without accessing water, drinking water. They have to move back a long distance before they can get water.
As a result, the farmers are unable to care for their animals. In some cases, they have decreased the size of their herds. For the farmer, it means a loss of valuable income. For the community, it means less access to an important source of animal protein.
And a community that cannot have adequate animal protein, they will really severely be impacted on their health, mental development, education of children. So the issue of food, nutrition, the supply, food security is very critical. It is something that is of concern. The future of livestock farming here is very uncertain. Yeah.
The Makondo community are a proud people who make the best of the resources they have. They have been forced to be creative when dealing with issues that have arisen.
One thing about people think of solutions, human beings can really think of creative ways to solve problems. And I assume he was getting water, you see. So it shows you that he knew that the chain is the mechanism, is the link between the cylinder that brings the water up. So it shows you how brilliant these people are, you know. He knew if I can pull the chain up, that means the cylinder will come up, the cylinder comes up with water, and water comes out. That's a brilliant, it shows you how really people can think of new ways of solving issues.
As the Water is Life project draws to a close, it is imperative to plan for the future. In the project's final week, everyone has come together in Makerere University in Kampala to present and share their research findings. This is a rare opportunity for the community members of Makondo to engage directly with the policymakers from the Ugandan government and influence their decisions.
I think at the end of the week it's kind of a little bit sad as well because you know, we've been all working together for 5 years and maybe 6 years in some people's cases, and it's just kind of strange because as well as really working very well together, our friendship has been built up as well.
The Water is Life project has left a lasting impression on all those who were involved.
Just listening to what those people with their new doctorates were telling us today about Makondo and the level of fire in the belly, yeah? They were upset about their results, yeah? That's such a huge thing, to have people who have done a bit of research, realized what their research means, and that they are upset about it, yeah?
To me, I really thank Water is Life project because it has sponsored all my studies since 2010 to date. It has funded my transport, it has funded my tuition, it has funded the bottles which I used to experiment in Makondo. And actually, like these ladies you're seeing, they've all benefited from Water is Life project. So to me, Water is Life has done a very great job.
However much I've changed in terms of maybe gaining knowledge and understanding, I just see myself always coming back to where the real issues are. And I think it's because I really want to see practical solutions that can make a difference in these people's lives.
I would absolutely agree that water, it's really precious. It's a commodity we need to really conserve and utilize in the most sustainable way, bearing in mind that we have our children and grandchildren to come after us. We want them to be able to enjoy what we've enjoyed, you know.
I would like to first thank Water is Life project for the great work they have done in Makondo. They gave us meetings. Through those meetings and sensitization, people started to contribute money. Then we managed to repair our boreholes and the other shallow well we have at the end of the village. Up to now, they are working and the people are trying to contribute because they now have a spirit of ownership.
I think we've left behind a legacy of hope. We've left behind a legacy of empowerment, and we've left a village that are mobilised and understand the importance of their water resources.
Uganda doesn't stand alone in terms of the challenges it faces in terms of access to water and sanitation. And therefore, the hope is that Water is Life is able to carry this forward, to sustain the partnerships that are there, to try and reach out to others, and to blow the trumpet and say, this is what we've done, this is how we've done it. At the end of it all, we have here a huge amount of learning, a great degree of impact, and this is something which we would like to share with the rest of the world.
Having sustainable access to safe, clean water is a basic human right for the people of Makondo and for communities throughout the developing world. Without it, many people will suffer. While the work of Water is Life has already started to have an impact on the ground, it is important that its findings reach wider communities and policymakers. If this happens, then there is hope. Hope for self-sustaining societies, not only in Uganda, but around the world.